if Prince Harry does not walk now, knowing that his wife is already planning the post-divorce autobiography, then the man is a fool. And you know I have no sympathy for Harry. I'm not one of those people that blames all of this on Meghan. But I would say to Prince Harry right now, get out, get out, get out. You have been warned. If you stay after this article, you are a fool because you know what is coming. Breaking right now, Prince Harry and Meghan Markle say that they are distressed. The poor poppets. By the what they brand attack in Vanity Fair magazine. Well, let me just say for one moment, I think the people who probably have a right to be most distressed are their staff members who were bullied into submission to the point where they have had to seek therapy. Perhaps the executives at Spotify who wasted £20 million on ludicrous ideas like sociopath Prince Harry interviewing other famous sociopaths like Vladimir Putin. And look, you know I hate to say I told you so. But if you've been watching Outspoken, this isn't a surprise to you. None of these revelations are new. In fact, you can argue it's shameful that it's taken the mainstream media 5 years to catch up. Especially, of course, when it comes to the Sussexes' marriage. Because while friends may tell Vanity Fair that Prince Harry and Meghan Markle are still, quote, hot for each other, what on earth explains Ms. Markle selling the rights to her post-divorce autobiography? So look, what we're going to do today is take you through this article, decode it with the insight and analysis from my coverage of the Sussexes over the past decade and the brilliant According to Taz, who, as you know, on her YouTube channel, she has been well ahead of the game on this story. So let's kick off looking at this Vanity Fair cover, which they brand inside Prince Harry and Meghan Markle's big business ambitions 5 years after their royal exit. Now, a little bit of context, of course, there is some bad blood between Meghan Markle and Vanity Fair after they ran the cover wild about Harry, and she later tried to, in some way, link it to racism. Of course it's not. Of course it's not. So, things start pretty normal in this Vanity Fair article. They write, this January marks 5 years since that failed parlay leaving the royal family has brought tests for the couple, legal, financial, reputational, personal, and practical, going from divinely chosen, or at least chosen by someone else who was divinely chosen, members of a 1,200-year-old institution, to startup founders in exile is a tough adjustment. But there has also been opportunity. And here's the key line. Over many months, Vanity Fair, and it's their reporter Anna Peel, spoke with dozens of people who have worked with and lived alongside the couple to understand the impact they've had on their new coastal Californian community, the challenges of enacting the ambitions of two first-time CEOs, and how their experience with the monarchy foreshadowed some of their current difficulties. Harry and Meghan declined to be interviewed for this article, although it is very clear that they had put people up. So they start talking about Harry's work in Africa, and that is what you would expect. Someone inside the couple's inner circle says he has real gravitas when he speaks about Africa, and he's free from Willie, as well as the future king's supposed dominion over that continent. Africa was his thing, remember, Harry said in Spare. But then you start getting into the juice about what staff really think about Harry and Meghan. Producer Jane Marie, who has worked with them, says on the record, they have this naivete and their hopefulness about what's possible in terms of storytelling and good works and all those things. I kind of wish I had that optimism. However, as the article goes on, talking about exactly how the couple worked with Spotify and Netflix, you realize this wasn't about optimism. It was about being a complete and utter nightmare. The development process was challenging. No surprises there. A former Spotify executive says, They had this idea to do a podcast because they knew celebrities did them. And they hoped to become like very successful podcasters, Smartlesses, Will Arnett, Sean Hayes, and Jason Bateman, for example. However, the former Spotify employee says Harry and Meghan didn't do what celebrities do on podcasts, which is turn on the mic and talk. They wanted a big theme that would explain the world, but they had no ideas. And someone who worked closely with them on audio projects disputes this version, lamenting that because Meghan and Harry's insistence on silence from employees and their own reticence, the public didn't know about good projects that they had abandoned for practical reasons. It feels like the only story is they didn't satisfy their contract. It's not like work wasn't being done. However, Spotify kept applying pressure. They were paying them a lot of money, and people involved with the production say the couple did trial runs on some big ideas, like This American Lifestyle show where Harry and Meghan took turns hosting and talking to interesting civilian guests. As Bloomberg reported, Harry wanted to host a series where he interviewed powerful men with complicated stories like Mark Zuckerberg, Vladimir Putin, and Donald Trump. The concept wasn't just that the men shared challenging early lives, it was that their experiences made them into sociopaths, or so Harry envisaged, one person familiar with the ideation process said. And the person who worked in media confirms there was a sociopath podcast, and that effectively Harry said, I had a very bad childhood trauma. My mother was essentially murdered. What it is about me that didn't make me one of these bad guys. So he genuinely thinks that he isn't a sociopath. Quite funny that. But as the article went on to implore a season's worth of world-famous sociopaths to talk about how they developed sociopathy would be what is referred to in access journalism as a booking challenge. So let's pause there and bring in according to Taz. Look, we absolutely knew, Tasha, that things between Spotify and the duplicitous duo, the effing grifters, as Bill Simmons described them, had gone terribly wrong. But isn't there something absolutely fascinating about one of the world's biggest sociopathic couples planning to do a podcast about other sociopaths, but the hook is, we're not sociopaths, guys, you are.
Yeah, there's certainly a lot to laugh about with that in itself. I mean, if Harry wanted to do interviews on sociopathy, he certainly wouldn't have to go as far as America for Trump and Zuckerberg.
Just knock on the bedroom door next door. Exactly. Or actually, probably the bedroom door on the other side of the house these days.
Yeah, I mean, just walk into the marital bedroom. You've got your perfect subject sitting right there. I mean, to say that they're sociopaths and Harry doesn't understand why he's not one himself. I mean, it's delusional at this point. I mean, obviously, he's really pushed at every opportunity that his mother was essentially murdered, as they quoted. But it's just, they go from one thing to the next, and you just think he sounds like he's losing it more and more. I mean, how anyone could ever think.
He definitely is, Taz, because the article goes on to say that the Spotify executives became so desperate that Harry once came to their office in Los Angeles and asked for a cup of cocoa. But there was none in the office. So the employees scrambled to obtain some. And the article says, an idea was pitched to Harry. What if he reviewed a hot chocolate every week while chatting with a different friend, which he and his team considered and rejected? Another concept was that Harry would fix something every week, ranging from a flat tire to global warming. But of course, the Spotify employee said there was only one podcast he really wanted to do, Tash, and it was about disabled people who compete in the Invictus Games. But as they said, there's no crossover between the audience who would listen to that and people who want to hear about Harry's life.
I mean, you've got to be desperate, haven't you, to think that the only thing that you can do to get them to do something is to review hot chocolate every week. And let's be honest, Dan, I mean, how many friends and celebrities would he even be able to get in the chair to talk about hot chocolate? Harry's friendship circle has dwindled just as quickly as their popularity, because the first thing that Meghan did was separate him from his family and from his friends. Anyone that could maybe talk sense into him, she made sure that they were the first to go. So he would have been pretty limited. There would definitely be more choices of hot chocolate than there would be of people to Harry to be able to interview.
Very
That's
true.
for sure.
Very true. And look, while this article does tend to focus on Meghan, and of course we'll get to the damning revelations about her shortly, it really does pick up on this entitlement that is completely cloaked with everything that Harry does, because it goes on to say that during the interview, this was a job interview, a potential employee said Harry's attitude was either, well, why should I do this? Or why are we doing this? And the interviewee says they wondered, didn't Spotify pay you a lot of money to do this? And then a person inside the couple's circle, and I think this gets to the nub of the issue, explains he looks like the kind of guy who would frankly happily work for charities for the rest of his life and would be very happy if Meghan made all the money and he didn't want to. But the problem is Meghan's friends were also slipping away, because there was an expectation, according to the article, that Meghan would be able to use her personal Rolodex to book the show, the way hosts like Simmons and the Pod Save America guys do. The person who worked in Media Project said the assumption was Meghan's going to be on the phone with the Pope tomorrow. However, they didn't want a bar of it. Taylor Swift turned her down. We knew that. But new in this article is the fact that Beyonce and Meghan the Stallion were also asked to come on the show and declined. So the point is, these big stars, Tasha, these genuine stars, these stars who have a lot to lose, don't want to be connected with Ms. Markle and her crappy projects.
Well, of course not. The world of celebrity works that if you attach yourself to a very bad project, even if it's not your project, that you will be tainted, you will be tarred and feathered alongside when it fails. And it was clearly obvious that Archetypes was going to be a snore fest before the first episode had even aired. Beyonce, I do wonder whether she might have turned that down because she got pulled into Netflix through no choice of her own. Remember, she had apparently sent a text message to Meghan that Meghan conveniently got at that moment that they were being filmed for Netflix and read it out. And I can't imagine Beyonce, while she might have sent that, probably appreciated her name being dragged into, which was essentially a 6-part episode attacking the royals. But as for Harry, the undertones of his attitude being in the meeting, he sounds like a lazy teenager. His attitude of, why should I have to do something? Why? It's like a child being told to clean their room. This is not a man. Well, it's not a man, really, is it? As I said, like mentally, he seems to be stuck at a teenager. He wants everybody to do everything for him. And that's maybe how Meghan quickly came in and cleaned up as quickly as she did, because Harry just allowed her to technically swoop him off his feet. And it doesn't paint either of them in a good light. And the fact that so many celebrities that are well-known celebrities are not interested in being part of whatever, I don't know, pony show that they're putting on next.
Very, very good point. Very good point. And the thing is, Meghan had no bravery either, because according to the source in Media Project, she would agree to provocative ideas and then walk them back. So she wouldn't actually say the word bitch. She called it the B word. An episode titled Slut was retitled Human Being because she had to reimagine it late in the production. And the source says every episode got more and more watered down and further away from actual conversation. It felt like very women's and gender studies 101 taught in 2003. And I thought that was a great way to sum it up. So that's the Spotify deal. But then you start getting to the juice of Meghan's bullying. And a little bit of context here. I had, of course, revealed right back when she was in the royal family that the reason that Meghan fell out with Catherine, the Princess of Wales, was because of the way that she was bullying staff at Kensington Palace, the way that she would speak to staff members. And then, as the time went on, I reported on the fact that there was a Sussex Survivors Club with all of the people who had been bullied by Meghan. You know, the nannies, she went through 3 nannies in 6 weeks. I mean, there was a litany of this stuff. So This isn't new, but why it's so significant is this is Vanity Fair. This is the establishment publication confirming what reporters like me were attacked for by the Sussex Squad, received death threats from for the Sussex Squad. So let's go into what Vanity Fair decided to report. So they say, the source who worked a media project says Meghan's own relationships with employees tended to follow a similar pattern. She would be warm and effusive at the beginning, engendering an atmosphere of professional camaraderie. When something went poorly, often due to Meghan and Harry's own demands, such as a teaser for Archetypes being released 5 months before the show premiered and before there was any tape to promote, Meghan would become cold and withholding toward the person she perceived to be responsible. The source says it was really, really awful, very painful. They go on to say, because she's constantly playing checkers, I'm not even going to say chess, but she's just very aware of where everybody is on her board. And when you are not in, you are able to be thrown to the wolves at any given moment. In practice, they say that manifested as undermining. It's talking behind your back. It's gnawing at your sense of self, really like Mean Girls teenagers. But it gets worse. 2 sources told Vanity Fair a colleague with ties to Archetypes took a leave of absence after working on 3 episodes, then left Gimlet altogether. Several others described taking extended break from work to escape scrutiny, exiting their job, or, here's the key line, they bury the lead in these articles, undergoing long-term therapy after working with Meghan. The person who interacted professionally with her says, I think if Meghan acknowledged her own shortcomings or personal contributions to situations rather than staying trapped in a victim narrative, her perception might be better. They added with a soggy laugh, but who am I to criticize Meghan Markle? She's doing great. So there we go, Tash. I'd been saying it for years and years and years. This is a woman who claims to be leading the Be Kind charge, but in fact, behind the scenes, she is a big-time bully. And she can sue me if she's not happy with that, because believe me, there'd be a heck of a lot of people wanting to give evidence.
It would seem that Meghan is in fact the B word herself when it comes to being a boss. I mean, that is so damning. It really is. Like you said, you've reported it on a number of years. I've spoken about it for a number of years. And it's the fact that she uses emotional cruelty. These are people that are employed. So she has that edge where she knows that people want to keep their job. They don't want to be sacked. And she uses that to her advantage to bully people. I mean, to even have that she's put people in long-term therapy, that is horrific treatment. Nobody deserves to work for an employer like that. No one should be treated like that in a place that you are just obviously just trying to earn money. It really is disgraceful that she's got away with it for so long, and so many people still defend her with that sugary, sweet, sickly sycophancy
But
when
Tasha,
they say she's amazing.
Oh yeah, but Tasha, we were racist. Do you remember we were racist?
Oh, of course.
For saying that she was a bully.
Oh, yes.
And there seems to be no acknowledgement from those people, Tasha, that the only reason why the Buckingham Palace staff members have not spoken up is because it would be illegal for them to do so. They have to sign the Official Secrets Act. Likewise, all of her staff members, according to this article, had to sign NDAs in America. Why not allow them to talk, Meghan, if you're so confident? Because the thing is, Tasha, this is now a litany of major publications who have backed up the reporting from people like me, Lady Colin Campbell, Camilla Tominey, Tom Bauer, including The Hollywood Reporter and the Daily Beast. These were publications that were on her side. But first, something really important to talk to you about, actually. Scammers and spammers who are out there to ruin your life. We've all experienced more and more of those spam emails, text messages, and robo phone calls. Not only are they annoying and time-consuming to deal with, but they usually represent a gross invasion of your private information that can cause vast financial and reputational damage. And how the heck did they get your information in the first place? It's likely as a result of data brokers who know everything about you, your health information, relationship status, mortgage details, and so much more, and then sell it for a profit. These data brokers can directly or indirectly expose sensitive information to bad actors, putting you at risk of identity theft. The number of data breaches worldwide rises every year. According to the annual data breach report by the Identity Theft Resource Center, it went up by 72% in 2023 compared to the previous year. This means you and your loved ones are also at a constantly increasing risk of data breaches as a growing list of data brokers hold your personal information. That's then being sold or published without you even knowing about it. Now, the consequence of this can be shocking. Health insurance companies could actually raise your rates based on your online activity. Huge loans have been taken under people's names without them even knowing about it. And scammers have even started to use AI to mimic the voices of friends and family to trick victims into sending them money. These imposter scams rely entirely on the voice data they can find online. While you can ask these data brokers to delete your personal information, the process takes hundreds of hours to do manually and requires repetition. The good news is that today I have a solution for you that I use and personally endorse. Go to incogni.com/outspoken and get 60% off an annual plan right now. Incogni reaches out to data brokers on your behalf, requests your personal data removal, and handles any objections from their side. And the whole process is automated, ensuring that your data stays off the market by conducting repeated removals and taking down your data again if it pops up. This is what makes the yearly subscription especially advantageous. I do the annual plan, so they're constantly taking me off these lists. It's such a simple process. You simply create an account, grant Incogni the right to work for you, and they will contact the data brokers on your behalf to request your personal data removal. Go to incogni.com/outspoken and get 60% off an annual plan right now. It could be the most important decision you make. But now, back to the show.
Yeah, it really is truly shocking. As you said, these are reputable publications, and the way that she has continuously left a trail of bodies, which again is funny when you think that Harry said that the royal family left a trail of bodies in their wake for trying to get positive PR. They sacrificed him and Meghan, and it seems that Meghan just seems to be personally sacrificing the mental well-being of all of their staff. And the fact that Harry's big job that he has is that a mental fitness company, Better Up, and yet he seems to allow his wife to torture their own employees. I mean, as I said, for a person that's pushing like kindness and mental well-being in a workplace, these two sound absolutely horrific to work for.
That's for sure. They absolutely do, Tasha. And you can imagine that there are a lot of people who do feel vindicated as a result of this article.
Yeah, definitely. I can imagine it's not just people like yourself that have commented on, well, done reports yourself, you know. It's so many people have been tarnished by the smear campaign brush that Meghan and Harry said. Anybody that ever said anything negative about Meghan, I think a lot of people feel vindicated, but the most important are the people that were bullied, that have been put through this, it seems like the worst type of cruelty that an employer can inflict on an employee. And the thing is, with it being gimlet, this wasn't even Meghan's own employees. This wasn't Archwell production staff. This was an extra studio that Spotify bought in to get these two to pull their thumb out and actually produce something. And she's bullied other people's staff to the point that they've quit. I mean, that's truly shocking. It really, really is. And I'm very surprised she's not ended up in some sort of employment tribunal at this point.
Well, it's because of these deals. It's because of these deals, isn't it? But look at this, Tash, from Tom Sykes, a very well-connected editor-at-large, European editor-at-large of the Daily Beast, who reports that Meghan Markle's former UK employees, who called her a demon boss prone to psycho moments, feel vindicated by the Vanity Fair report. One former Buckingham Palace employee told the Daily Beast, "I am surprised that people spoke out, but I am not surprised by the content of their allegations. It seems like nothing has changed." Another added, I feel desperately sorry for the people affected because I have been there, but I also feel vindicated. The source said that people claiming Meghan is the world's greatest boss should be ashamed of themselves. They added, it's obviously very tempting to work for her when you are being wooed and loved on, but people should be in no doubt she is a nightmare. I would think the atmosphere will be particularly hellish now. Everything is going to shit. She doesn't do disappointment well. But let's go back to the Vanity Fair article, because it then looks into Prince Harry and says, who is the real Harry now that he's been released from the zoo in which he was raised? By one telling, the person who interacted professionally with Meghan says he's socially marooned beyond his nuclear family. She was upfront about the fact that Harry hadn't made many friends yet, the source said, of Meghan's assessment of her husband. The person who worked in media projects with the couple also has a guess. I think Harry doesn't know what he wants because he grew up in a fishbowl, and so he doesn't know what real life really is. I think he probably wants to be left alone and be able to go kiss babies every once in a while, but not have to worry about money. I don't think he wants to be famous the way Meghan wants to be famous. But of course, she has done everything, Tash, that someone who's gaslighting someone or coercively controlling someone does, which is remove him from his friends, remove him from his family, make her the only person, because this article also points out that Meghan has become almost like a carer to Harry, a mother-like figure to Harry, even though, by the way, friends do say they're so hot for each other, Tash. Like, you know how you meet those couples where you're like, the way they're looking at each other, I should probably not be here right now? Really?
That part
Really?
of the article, Dan, made me cringe. It made me feel a little bit sickly, to be honest with you, because also mentioned in the article is someone actually mentions it's not like the Oedipus complex, which is where a child has, sexual interest in one of their parents. And the fact that someone's actually put that in the article and then it's quickly followed by they're so hot for each other, it gives me the absolute ick. There's something very unsavory about a man that sees his wife as his mother. That's one thing to be a caregiver, but to actually see her like his mother, I'm sorry, it makes me think of Norman Bates. It really does.
And then we have the Montecito residents, Tasha, who can't stand these two either. The prince and the starlet, as the Monteciton calls her, have become local villains, according to several people who spoke with Vanity Fair. They attribute the increase in housing prices to them as much as Ellen DeGeneres and point to out-of-towners coming in, driving too fast and taking up the street parking by local trails like the one Meghan was photographed hiking on while Harry was in the UK for Charles's coronation. You can't just walk into Lucky's for dinner anymore. So, look, there's a lot of details on this in the article. Perhaps this is the one area where you cannot completely blame Harry and Meghan, but it is fascinating, Tasha, that they just haven't done more to endear themselves to their neighbours, right?
No, exactly. I mean, we were reading reports early on that an elderly neighbour had gone round to just give them a tape on the local area and just try and meet the couple. Everybody that's gone round to try and socialise with them, they've been barred at the gate. The security have told them to go away. And they have drawn a lot of attention to that property that they apparently live in. I have my own suspicions. But it is, I can understand with the neighbours saying that you've brought all of this added extra press attention to our local, which was known as a very quiet community where celebrities and lots of rich people had lived fairly anonymously for years. And they have courted more and more press attention, with Meghan doing her pap strolls here and there. So, of course, this has definitely, I would say, attracted far more attention to an area, an enclave where they did enjoy their privacy. And Harry and Meghan are complete and utter hypocrites because they do the pap strolls, which again is laughable considering she's punished her father for doing a paparazzi stroll, yet those two seem to be doing them independently and together.
Tash, I think the most damning revelation in the entire article, however, is buried quite far down. But I want to talk about it now, and I want to contextualize it a little bit. I have heard for some time, I have reported for some time, that Meghan Markle is absolutely conscious that she is preparing for a post-divorce career. It is something she has done for ages. Now, the question would be, why the hell do you do that? Why the hell do you do that if your marriage is all good? But here is how Vanity Fair becomes the first mainstream publication to go public with this. They write, a few years ago, a rumor began circulating around the book world about another prospective project for Meghan. This story, which a person with knowledge confirms the broad details of, was that Meghan's team had a conversation with the publishing house to gauge interest in the idea for a potential book. The concept, for which there was no written or formal proposal, was post-divorce. Not a general book on life after marital dissolution, or one about Meghan's past experience. She was married, of course, to Trevor Engelson from 2011 to 2014. This book, this notion of a book really, might center on a post-Harry divorce. Then the magazine adds, I guess, to protect themselves, not that there actually was one in the works, just if this divorce ever came to be. Would this publisher theoretically be interested in a book that took place in the aftermath? Another source with knowledge says if that's true to any degree, she would have been approached and not vice versa. No offer was ever made and no manuscript was ever produced. After all, there was no divorce. But come on, Tash. Come on.
There is absolute truth behind that, because when you think back to Meghan was already taking footage and recording things for a potential expose for them, which, as we know now, turned out to be the Netflix footage for Megxit. They were planning that before the wedding. You've got that they did actually have meetings with Quibi, which were a streaming platform that existed back then. I think they're now obsolete. They were lining up deals beforehand, and I think that was Meghan's idea. So to believe that Meghan hasn't been lining up deals for when she leaves Harry, and people don't believe that, well, of course she has. I think, like she was plotting and planning Megxit, she's always been plotting and planning to eventually leave Harry. I do not believe that Harry has a very long shelf life with her. I think that Meghan has always been lining up her ducks for the next opportunity. And a divorce book deal, big money, touring people's sofas, you know, the big, well, we know exactly what she'd do. But I can imagine that Meghan's already built up a good dossier enough to be writing a book. I think that she's always planned this. I don't believe that she ever planned to join the royal family for very long. Megxit was in the works, as we know now, before the wedding. Netflix was in the works before the wedding. They just didn't realise which streaming platform would actually buy it up at the time. So, yes, I believe that Meghan has been shopping around for the best deals that she can get when she eventually decides to walk, or Harry might eventually get a backbone and be the first one to walk out, but I kind of doubt that.
Well, can I just say, if Prince Harry does not walk now, knowing that his wife is already planning the post-divorce autobiography, then the man is a fool. And you know I have no sympathy for Harry. I'm not one of those people that blames all of this on Meghan. But I would say to Prince Harry right now, get out, get out, get out. You have been warned. If you stay after this article, you are a fool because you know what is coming. And Tash, let me just take you through what Lady Colin Campbell, our good friend, had to say about this article. It was really, really fascinating. She writes, "It is said that revenge is a dish best served cold. I am told that Vanity Fair has patiently waited 7.5 years to stick it to Meghan Markle, who in 2017 accused them of racism in the form of their headline Wild About Harry, after they put her on their front page and gave her a degree of credibility and kudos which she actually lacked and which she was not entitled. This helped her to make it up the aisle with Prince Harry, and since then Vanity Fair has appeared to be one of the most faithful keepers of her flame. But apparently all is not quite what it seems." And then she then quotes a source saying, "They've never forgiven her or forgotten what she did. They were furious about it then and they've remained furious about it since. While she and Harry have picked people like Dan Wootton and Piers Morgan off their perches and tried to do so less successfully with you, Vanity Fair have bided their time. I'm told they're jubilant at how they've plunged the knife in. Lady C goes on to say, it also shows how inept an analyst of human nature Meghan is. She really seems to think that she can use, misuse, exploit, and knock people down, stepping on them without fear of the consequences as she stomps ever higher upwards on the back of their contributions to fulfill her ambitions for fame and fortune. All the while, though, she fails to understand that people have longer memories than she does, and they'll bide their time until they're presented with the perfect opportunity to exact justice and unmask the creature for the mutant that she is. Congratulations, Vanity Fair. You have, on the face of it, engaged in a fair, balanced, and comprehensive examination of the 5 years since Megxit. You have done what my American publishers insisted I do with the original 2020 version of my book, Meghan and Harry, namely bend over backwards to come up with any and everything positive one could include about the subject, no matter how obtuse or preposterous it was, thereby providing evidence of a balance that actually tilts the work in undeserved favour of the subject. Those of us in the know have found some of your more positive comments about the couple and the state of their relationship, as well as their personal attributes, both funny and laughable. Nevertheless, including those comments does preserve you against accusations of bias, as you have paid the ingrate back for the unwarranted accusation she made against you in 2017. Thanks for the proof that patience is indeed a virtue, that revenge is a dish best served cold, and for providing us with the lesson that even standard bearers such as yourself will abandon propaganda and exact revenge for the wrongs done to you. Once the situation becomes apparent that there is no further financial advantage to be gained from continuing to purvey the fiction that black is white, pink is green, and that Meghan Markle is anything but the piece of work you've known she was for the last 7.5 years, you're about to discover that the truth does set you free. Lady Colin Campbell, beautifully put. Thank you so much for watching Dan Wootton Outspoken. Please click on my face just to the bottom left to subscribe to this brand new independent news source and turn on the notification bell so you'll be alerted to our brand new live shows, uncancelled interviews, and special royal episodes. Outspoken is also now available as a podcast, so you can listen to the show every weekday on the go, wherever you are.